Something hidden inside an interstellar visitor has begun to stir, and astronomers can't explain it. The object is known as 3I Atlas, only the third interstellar body ever seen crossing into our solar system. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a drifting ball of ice and dust, a faint smudge sliding silently across the starfield. But just weeks before its closest approach, Atlas is behaving as though it wants to be noticed. Jets are erupting from within. Its glow is shifting in strange new ways, and scientists whisper that something inside it is finally showing itself. And as we drift together into this mystery, let me pause just briefly. Where in the world are you listening tonight? I find it remarkable how many curious minds gather in this quiet corner of the internet. If you're enjoying this sleepy exploration, a gentle like and subscribe helps keep the journey flowing, and it means you'll never miss the next step into the unknown. Now let's return to the object itself. Atlas isn't just another comet. It's a traveler from somewhere beyond, born around another star, shaped by conditions alien to our own. For months it was quiet, a cold visitor following the predictable mathematics of a hyperbolic orbit. But suddenly, something changed. Its coma, that great luminous shroud of dust and gas, is expanding far faster than expected. Its surface doesn't simply vent material when warmed by sunlight. It seems to be cracking open from the inside out, like a shell forced apart by pressure. Astronomers are unsettled because this isn't how ordinary comets behave. Most wake gently, streaming faint tails as they creep toward the sun. Atlas, by contrast, seems alive with urgency, as though a mechanism has switched on within. Some researchers suggest deep reservoirs of exotic ice are sublimating at once, blasting jets of material into space. Others whisper about stranger possibilities, hollow chambers, hidden structures, perhaps even processes that no telescope has yet catalogued. The timing only deepens the mystery. Atlas is arriving during one of the strangest seasons in recent astronomical history. A year of clustered comets, unexpected asteroids, and a sun awakening into its stormy maximum. Every few weeks, another anomaly joins the stage, and Atlas, with its unearthly glow, stands at the center. Tonight, as we begin this journey across 60 chapters, we'll peel back each layer of evidence. Is this natural coincidence, or the unveiling of something our species was never meant to ignore? Stay with me, because the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. We left off with a simple but unsettling truth. Atlas is not behaving like anything we've seen before. To understand why this matters, we need to step back and ask a question that seems obvious but is often overlooked. What is this thing in the first place? On paper, 3I Atlas is classified as a comet. That word carries a kind of comfort. We imagine icy wanderers, dirty snowballs with long glowing tails, harmless spectacles that occasionally sweep across the sky. But interstellar comets do not belong to that familiar category. They are born in places we cannot see, sculpted by suns we will never visit, and altered by journeys spanning millions of years across the dark between stars. When such an object drifts into our neighborhood, it carries with it a kind of alien memory, chemistry, structure, and behavior unlike anything raised in our solar nursery. The first time humanity saw such a traveler was in 2017 with the infamous object called Oumuamua. That visitor baffled scientists by tumbling strangely, by accelerating without explanation, and by refusing to grow a tail like a proper comet should. 2 years later, we met a second interstellar guest, Borisov, which behaved more like the comets we know, though its composition hinted at a different kind of stellar nursery. And now, Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar body, approaches, and already it is rewriting the pattern. Think of it this way. If the first visitor raised eyebrows, and the second reassured us that maybe nothing was amiss, then the third has arrived to throw everything back into question. Three examples don't make a law, but they do form a rhythm, and this rhythm feels like it's building toward a revelation. What makes Atlas distinct is not just its alien origin, but the way it seems alive with energy long before it should be. At a distance where ordinary comets sleep in silence, Atlas is already awake. Its coma glows green from molecules that rarely appear in such abundance. Its jets are firing from beneath its surface, as though some internal furnace is at work. And now, astronomers track subtle pulses of brightness, flickering like the heartbeat of something vast and hidden. This is why Atlas matters. It isn't just another icy rock. It is a message in motion, a fragment of a system we've never seen, carrying secrets from the deep galactic wilderness. And for reasons no one fully understands, it is choosing this moment, this year, this season of strange clustering and restless skies, to show what lies inside. So what were the first real signs that Atlas was not the silent traveler we expected? It began quietly, with brightness curves. Astronomers live by these light measurements, carefully plotting the rise and fall of glow against the cold backdrop of stars. Atlas should have brightened in a steady, predictable climb as sunlight warmed its surface, but instead the curve danced, sudden surges followed by lulls, like a lantern flickering in a hidden wind. At first, some dismissed it as an error in calibration, a telescope glitch, noise in the data. But then, night after night, the irregular rhythm continued. One observatory after another confirmed the same strange pulses. It was as though something within Atlas was breathing, contracting and expanding, pushing light outward in irregular heartbeats. The second anomaly was stranger still. Jets of gas did not appear where they should. A comet's activity normally traces along surface fractures, like steam escaping from cracks in ice. But Atlas displayed jets emerging from beneath layers that should have been sealed. Subsurface activity, violent enough to break through the crust, painting arcs of material across its coma. If this were simple melting, it should be localized, gentle, and predictable. But these eruptions seemed coordinated, almost timed. And then came the chemistry. Spectroscopic analysis revealed a dominance of cyanogen and diatomic carbon, glowing in ghostly green. These molecules exist in ordinary comets, yes, but not in this proportion, not with such intensity at this distance from the Sun. To put it simply, Atlas was acting as though it had already crossed into the inner system, even while still far from the furnace. All three anomalies, brightness, jets, chemistry, left astronomers asking the same uneasy question: what exactly is happening inside this object? Segment 4. Why it shouldn't be possible. Here's where the story deepens. To understand why these anomalies disturb scientists, you need to know just how cold and quiet most comets are when they drift in from the outer darkness. Imagine an ancient vault of frozen rock, locked away for millions of years, stirred only when sunlight finally begins to thaw its shell. That thaw is slow, gentle, and predictable. It doesn't happen early, and it doesn't happen violently. But Atlas ignored those rules. It was active long before its orbit suggested it should be. That's like finding a campfire burning in the middle of a glacier. Unexpected, unnatural, a sign that something other than sunlight is at work. The explanation could be mundane: exotic ices, more volatile than water, hidden deep inside and venting once exposed. Substances like carbon monoxide and methane can erupt earlier, igniting a coma while a comet is still far from the Sun. But here's the catch. The volume of outgassing in Atlas is far greater than what those ordinary compounds could explain. It isn't just a trickle, it's a surge, one that keeps building, as though there's a furnace inside, not a freezer. For astronomers, the puzzle is doubled by timing. This object is arriving amid a year of extraordinary clustering, swarms of comets, asteroids crowding Earth's neighborhood, even a sun awakening into stormy upheaval. Atlas sits in the middle of this storm of coincidences, glowing with alien light, showing us secrets it shouldn't be able to reveal. And if that much is visible already, from millions of kilometers away, what else might be hidden, waiting to emerge when it draws nearer still? When we look at Atlas, glowing strangely in the night sky, we are not just studying an object, we are reading a fragment of another star system's history. Every interstellar visitor is a messenger. Oumuamua told us that not all wanderers behave like comets. Some are shards of something stranger. Borisov whispered of icy nurseries beyond our own, its chemistry echoing the worlds we know but twisted by different origins. And now Atlas arrives, carrying a tale that seems to blend both and yet surpass them. The question is, what story does it tell? Astronomers know that chemistry is the fingerprint of creation. The ratios of carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, these reveal the cradle in which a body was born. The spectrum of Atlas glows like a signature written in alien ink. Its ratios don't match our comets. They don't fit comfortably with the dust and ice of our Kuiper belt or the far-off Oort cloud. Instead, they suggest an environment rich in volatile compounds, a world perhaps colder than any planet we know, or perhaps closer to a volatile young star that forged exotic ices before flinging this fragment into the dark. And yet, it is not just the chemistry, it is the behavior. A body that erupts before its time, a coma swelling into the size of a star, a rhythm of brightness that feels deliberate, like the pulse of some hidden engine. If Atlas is a natural object, then it is nature speaking in a dialect we have never heard. If it is something more, then perhaps we are not just observers of geology, but witnesses to technology. The line between those possibilities is razor-thin. Nature has a way of creating phenomena so strange they mimic design, and design, if it exists out there, may choose to hide within nature's mask. Atlas forces us to face that ambiguity, to ask whether we are simply misreading an alien language or whether something is whispering back to us. Astronomy is often described as a conversation with the cosmos. We ask questions with telescopes, and the universe answers with light. In the case of Atlas, the answers feel like riddles. Each new observation clears one fog only to reveal another. Jets from the wrong places, brightness curves that flicker like signals, chemistry that glows with an otherworldly hue. To the scientific mind, this is exhilarating and maddening at once. The cautious explanation is that we are seeing rare natural behavior amplified by our own expectations. Perhaps buried ices are venting more violently than expected. Perhaps subtle fractures in the body explain the strange jets. Perhaps coincidences of timing are just that, coincidences. And yet no one can ignore how it feels. The timing, the clustering, the sense that Atlas is revealing itself piece by piece, as though unveiling layers of a secret. It is not that astronomers truly believe it is artificial, but when you stare night after night at a body that refuses to obey the rules, the question creeps in, what if? There is power in that what if. It drives sleepless nights at observatories, long debates in conference halls, and endless speculation in quiet corners of the internet like this one. Because if Atlas is natural, then nature itself has depths we have never explored. But if it is not, if something inside is finally showing us that the universe contains builders, travelers, perhaps watchers, then we are living through the opening lines of a story humanity has only ever imagined in myth. Either way, the silence of the stars feels a little less silent now, and the question lingers. When Atlas reaches its closest point, will the secret inside finally step fully into the light? Patterns are the trickiest illusions the universe plays on us. Our minds are built to find them, even where none exist. A cluster of stars becomes a constellation, random shadows form a face, coincidences become whispers of meaning, and now, in the case of Atlas, astronomers are seeing patterns that shouldn't be there. Consider the timing. Atlas is not alone in the skies of 2025. A swarm of comets is arriving in a window so narrow it defies statistical odds. Asteroids are sweeping past Earth in rapid succession, as though cued on some invisible highway. Earth itself trembles with a sequence of powerful earthquakes, while the Sun wakes into one of its stormiest cycles in decades. Each of these events could be explained alone. Coincidences, cycles, natural rhythms. But stacked together, they feel like the alignment of puzzle pieces forming a larger picture. And in the middle of this pattern sits Atlas. Not just passing by, but glowing, surging, and revealing more of itself with each passing week. It is this convergence, this sense of orchestration, that fuels both wonder and unease. Could Atlas simply be an innocent traveler arriving at a dramatic but meaningless moment? Or is its awakening tied to the choreography unfolding across the solar system? Patterns demand interpretation, and interpretation demands caution. Yet it is human nature to lean forward when the improbable happens more than once. And right now, improbability seems to be multiplying across the sky. If the sky were silent, we might not ask these questions. But the sky this year is noisy, almost theatrical. Imagine sitting in a concert hall where instruments begin to play one by one. First, a quiet violin, then a cello, then horns, drums, and trumpets until the stage is alive with sound. That is what 2025 feels like for astronomy, a cosmic orchestra tuning itself for something larger. Atlas is the centerpiece, its green glow the conductor's baton. Around it, the comets arrive like a chorus. Asteroids sweep past Earth as if percussion beats marking time. Solar flares and geomagnetic storms provide the brass, loud and unpredictable. And beneath it all, the Earth trembles, as though vibrating with the low notes of some hidden drum. This is metaphor, of course. The rational mind insists these events are unrelated, products of cycles and chance. But even the most disciplined scientists admit the clustering feels uncanny. Timing, after all, is everything in both music and mystery. And so the question grows louder. Is the orchestra playing for itself, or is someone or something directing the score? For now, Atlas remains center stage. Its light curves pulse, its jets fire, and its chemistry whispers of alien nurseries. And every night it edges closer to the sun, closer to the point where whatever lies inside may finally be forced to show itself in full. The audience, in this case humanity, can do nothing but watch, listen, and wonder. When the crescendo comes, will it be natural or intentional? Here's where we must pause, not to slow down, but to sharpen the view. Because the story of Atlas is made of two threads woven tightly together, facts and speculations. The facts are solid, measurable, undeniable. The speculation is what gives them shape, the narrative we drape across the stars. And when both are allowed to blur, wonder and paranoia can mix in equal measure. The facts are these. Atlas is real. It is the third confirmed interstellar object. It is active at distances where most comets remain quiet. It glows green with an unusual chemical profile. Its brightness pulses in ways we do not fully understand. Its coma is vast, nearly half the size of the Sun. None of this is rumor. It comes from observation logs, spectral data, and telescopes trusted by the world's leading institutions. The speculation begins where data leaves silence. Why is Atlas so active, so early? Why does its glow flicker like a heartbeat? Why does it arrive in a year already filled with unlikely cosmic alignments? These are questions, not conclusions. They open the door to imagination, and human imagination is powerful. Some suggest unusual ices, others dare to whisper of hollow chambers, hidden engines, even alien design. The real art here is balance. If we lean only on facts, the story feels flat, technical, stripped of wonder. If we lean only on speculation, we risk fantasy. But when we walk the line between them, fact as foundation, speculation as scaffolding, the story becomes both credible and thrilling. That balance is why Atlas has captured so much attention. It is not simply a rock in space. It is a mystery that invites both measurement and myth. And so, as we drift further, remember, the light curves and chemistry are certain. The meaning we draw from them is not. That meaning is the canvas of our imagination, painted with questions that have haunted us since the first humans looked at the sky and asked, why are we here and who else might be watching? Every telescope, no matter how advanced, faces the same dilemma. It shows us only light. Light stretched, bent, absorbed, re-emitted. From this faint glow we try to reconstruct entire worlds and sometimes entire civilizations. Atlas forces us to reckon with the limits of this method. Think of the astronomer at their screen, night after night, watching a point of green shimmer across the digital field. They can measure its brightness, calculate its orbit, dissect its spectrum, but they cannot touch it. They cannot crack it open to see what lies beneath. They are left with shadows of evidence, hints carried across hundreds of millions of kilometers, and the question of interpretation. This is why Atlas feels so slippery. For every scientist who insists the behavior is natural, another mutters that the timing is too neat. For every explanation involving exotic ice, another raises the possibility of engineered geometry. And as the debate continues, Atlas keeps moving, silent and indifferent to our theories, shedding gas and dust as though peeling away layers of itself just to complicate the picture further. It is here that astronomy drifts closest to philosophy. What do we do when we cannot know? Do we settle for the simplest explanation, even if it fails to account for the strangeness we see? Or do we allow ourselves to imagine, knowing that imagination risks ridicule? Atlas is not just a comet. It is a mirror reflecting our own struggle to balance skepticism with wonder. And perhaps that is the real revelation so far. Not what lies inside Atlas, but what Atlas has awakened inside of us. A hunger to see beyond, to accept that sometimes the universe refuses to play by the rules we've written. As Atlas draws nearer, the glow will sharpen, the coma will swell, and the mystery will deepen. And in that progression lies the central question of our time. When the unknown shows itself, do we dismiss it, or do we dare to believe we are standing at the threshold of something extraordinary? The story of Atlas would be mysterious enough on its own, but it does not travel alone. In 2025, the sky has grown strangely crowded. A cascade of comets and asteroids is arriving in such rapid succession that even seasoned astronomers admit it feels unusual. They are not supposed to cluster this way. The mathematics of orbital dynamics favor scatter, randomness, long intervals between visits. Yet here we are, with Atlas glowing green at the center, and a supporting cast of wanderers trailing close behind. Comet Swan, Comet Lemon, others less famous but no less real, all of them arriving in the same narrow season. Some skim past Earth close enough for binoculars to catch, others sweep near Mars, crossing paths as though choreographed, and all of them light their comas and tails in unusual ways, overlapping in the timeline of observation like notes pressed together in a chord. Patterns, once again. The rational mind protests. Coincidence. The universe is vast, objects are countless, and clusters can appear purely by chance. Yet the human heart insists the timing is too sharp. One interstellar object would be news. One comet cluster would be noteworthy. But both together in the same year, that is enough to make even the cautious lean forward. For those who watch the skies, the effect is almost theatrical. A stage crowded with actors, each entering on cue. And at the center, Atlas. Not the brightest, not the closest, but the most unsettling, because it is the only one we know for certain comes from beyond. Its behavior already refuses simple explanation. And its companions, though native to our system, seem to be echoing the theme: multiplication, convergence, activity above expectation. The night sky has always inspired awe, but this year it inspires something sharper, the sense that the curtain is rising on a play we do not yet understand. And Atlas, with its hidden light and surging coma, appears to be the lead. If all of this were happening in isolation, astronomers would shrug. They would file the reports, run the models, and move on. But the clustering creates a different mood, one that whispers of orchestration. When notes fall into rhythm, we instinctively suspect a musician. The cautious explanation is resonance. Orbits can sometimes align, creating windows when multiple bodies arrive near the same region of space. Gravitational nudges from Jupiter, Saturn, and the outer planets can herd icy fragments inward in waves. The mathematics is messy but not impossible, and yet the numbers suggest that the density of arrivals in 2025 is still far higher than statistical norms. It is not impossible, it is just deeply improbable. Here is where speculation slips in like a shadow. What if the clustering is not random? What if the interstellar visitor itself, Atlas, is the pivot point? Could its massive coma, its electromagnetic interactions with the solar wind, or even something hidden inside be influencing the timing of others? The physics of such influence are uncertain at best, but the imagination cannot resist the possibility. And here is where the storytelling turns almost mythic. Ancient cultures once looked to the sky and saw patterns as omens, gatherings of stars, clusters of comets, eclipses that marked turning points in human fate. We live in an age of data and skepticism, but the instinct to interpret remains. A crowded sky feels like a message, whether from chance, nature, or something greater. What we know is this: the clustering is real, the coincidence is heavy, and at the center, Atlas burns like a question mark against the darkness. Is it simply another actor in a crowded stage, or is it the conductor raising its baton, pulling other wanderers into formation? Whatever the answer, the effect is the same. Humanity finds itself staring upward, aware that the sky is no longer quiet. Something is unfolding, and Atlas is at its heart. Patterns in the sky are one thing, patterns in light are another. From the first days of watching Atlas, astronomers noticed something unnerving. Its brightness did not behave like an ordinary comet's. Instead of rising smoothly as sunlight warmed its surface, Atlas's glow flickered, not random, not entirely chaotic, but irregular in a way that felt intentional. Imagine a lighthouse beam across an empty sea. It is not perfectly steady. It brightens, it dips, it pulses. This is what telescopes saw in Atlas, a light curve that seemed to breathe, not once but over and over, a rhythm of small surges followed by retreats. The effect was subtle, buried in data, visible only after long nights of comparison. But once seen, it could not be unseen. Now, here's the dilemma. Light curves can tell us much about a body's rotation, about jets of gas releasing in bursts, about fractures and changes on its surface. All of these explanations are possible, even likely, but none of them fully account for the regularity of the pulses. Comets erupt, yes, but usually with more chaos than pattern. Atlas seemed to flicker with the persistence of something deeper. This is where imagination steps in. Some whisper, could the flicker be a signal? Not in the science fiction sense of radio beacons, but in the natural sense of hidden rhythms, a thermal cycle within, a buried process repeating itself. If so, then Atlas may not simply be showing activity, it may be showing us a heartbeat. Of course, the sober voices remind us, patterns can deceive. Our eyes and minds are wired to see order in noise. But the timing, the repetition, the suggestion of rhythm, these are the details that keep astronomers awake at night, staring at the faint green glow and wondering what lies beneath. Light is the oldest messenger in the universe. For billions of years, it has been carrying information across impossible distances about stars, about galaxies, about worlds we may never touch. But when light begins to behave strangely, it raises a dangerous thought. Is it trying to say something? In Atlas, the flickering glow has inspired precisely this unease. Not because astronomers truly believe the comet is speaking, but because the light seems too structured to ignore. The coma swells, the jets fire, the brightness surges, then recedes, as though there were chapters in a story being told in silence. Here's what makes it more unsettling. The flicker doesn't always match the predictions of rotation. If Atlas were simply tumbling, we would expect a consistent rhythm tied to its spin. But instead, the pattern drifts, adapts, shifts with a stubborn refusal to stay neat. It feels organic, like something responding to conditions from within. The cautious explanation is still volatile chemistry, layers of exotic ice venting in cycles we do not yet understand. But the more adventurous minds entertain another possibility, that the flickering is an emergent property, a kind of natural language we don't yet know how to read. A comet communicating its internal state not through design, but through the rhythm of its eruptions. And then, hovering just beyond the edge of acceptability, is the question no one dares to voice too loudly. What if the light is more than natural? What if Atlas carries something designed to reveal itself this way, in pulses of brightness, in whispers of rhythm across the void? Whether natural or not, the effect on us is the same. We lean in, we measure again, we wonder. The light of Atlas has become more than a glow in the darkness. It has become a riddle, flickering at the edge of human understanding. And as it draws closer to the sun, that riddle will only burn brighter. The universe runs on mathematics, or so we believe. Planets trace ellipses, moons follow their parents, comets arc along predictable paths. But every so often, the sky reminds us that order can masquerade as chaos, and chaos can sometimes masquerade as order. As Atlas drew closer, astronomers noticed something peculiar about the timing of its companions. The comets and asteroids crowding the sky this year are not only arriving together, but their orbits show an eerie tendency to cross near the same regions of space. Like dancers converging at the same points on a stage, their paths seem choreographed. The universe runs on mathematics, or so we believe. Planets trace ellipses, moons follow their parents, comets arc along predictable paths. But every so often, the sky reminds us that order can masquerade as chaos, and chaos can sometimes masquerade as order. As Atlas drew closer, astronomers noticed something peculiar about the timing of its companions. The comets and asteroids crowding the sky this year are not only arriving together, but their orbits show an eerie tendency to cross near the same regions of space. Like dancers converging at the same points on a stage, their paths seem choreographed. Now, let's be clear. Orbital mechanics can produce coincidences. Gravitational nudges from Jupiter can steer small bodies inward in waves, a kind of cosmic shepherding. But the density of arrivals, the clustering of orbital nodes, and the way they align so tightly with Atlas's passage leave many scratching their heads. These are not the lazy scatterings of rocks drifting wherever chance flings them. These are convergences packed into windows of days or weeks, almost as if someone drew invisible tracks through the solar system. To most, the explanation is still coincidence. But coincidence at this scale begins to strain belief. When so many bodies fall into similar alignments, we feel the tug of suspicion, the whisper that perhaps there is a deeper rhythm at play, one we do not yet understand. And if there is a rhythm, then Atlas is its centerpiece. Its vast coma, its flickering light, its interstellar path, all of it makes it the gravitational and symbolic anchor of this crowded year. The universe may be indifferent, but from our perspective, it feels as though Atlas is pulling the strings. Astronomy has a word for patterns like these: resonance. It is a gentle but powerful phenomenon, the tendency for orbits to fall into step with each other, guided by subtle gravitational nudges. We see it in the dance of Jupiter's moons, locked in ratios that repeat endlessly. We see it in Saturn's rings, carved into patterns by the pull of hidden shepherd moons. And perhaps we are seeing it now in the strange clustering around Atlas. Resonance is not magic, but it feels like it. Imagine children swinging on playground swings. Push them at just the right moments, and their arcs grow higher and higher in sync. Resonance is the universe's way of pushing, tiny gravitational tugs adding up over millennia to bring bodies into harmony. Could Atlas be part of such a resonance? Perhaps. Its path through our solar system is hyperbolic, a one-time guest passing through. But even a guest can strike a chord. Its sheer mass of gas and plasma, its interaction with the solar wind, even its magnetic footprint may be enough to nudge others into step. And if not Atlas itself, then perhaps its timing is part of a larger, unseen cycle, one that we are only just beginning to glimpse. Of course, the rational mind offers caution. Resonance is well understood. It does not require mystery, only mathematics. Yet what unsettles is not the existence of resonance, but its coincidence with an interstellar visitor revealing anomalies of its own, patterns within patterns, alignments within alignments. The effect is less like random chance and more like listening to a song we didn't know was being played, faint but insistent, drifting through the background of the solar system. And the question that lingers is simple. If this is resonance, then what is it resonating with? Picture this, a smooth sheet of glass tilted ever so slightly. Now scatter marbles across its surface. At first they roll in random directions, clinking into one another, drifting apart. But gradually you notice something strange. Some of the marbles begin to gather, circling into the same grooves, tracing paths that look almost intentional. This is what astronomers see when they map the paths of Atlas and its companions across the solar system. Dots of light on star charts, curves of motion traced across the sky, converging again and again in the same sectors of space. Not exact, not perfect, but suggestive, like marbles collecting in invisible channels. The visualization is striking. Imagine standing above a great cosmic table, watching objects the size of mountains roll and converge under laws we only partly understand. Jupiter's gravity tugs here, Saturn's resonance hums there, and somehow the result is not scatter but pattern, and at the heart of the pattern, glowing faintly green, Atlas. This imagery is more than poetic. It illustrates a profound truth about the universe. Order emerges from chaos. Randomness is not always random. Chance often hides structure, and when that structure reveals itself, we cannot help but ask, who or what drew the grooves? Were they carved by gravity alone, or by something more deliberate? The marbles keep rolling, the orbits keep converging, and with each passing week, the picture sharpens. Atlas is not just another dot among many. It is the marble that seems to draw the others into its path, silently but insistently guiding the rhythm of the sky. Astronomers lean toward natural explanations. They must. To assume design without evidence is to risk mistaking wonder for truth. And so the consensus whispers resonance, coincidence, statistical clustering amplified by our human hunger for story. But here is the difficulty. Natural harmony and orchestration can look very much the same. A choir singing in perfect unison may be guided by a conductor, or it may simply be the echo of voices finding each other. In the sky above us, comets and asteroids are arriving in a chorus, and Atlas, with its pulsing light and erupting jets, feels very much like the conductor's raised hand. Is that perception born of evidence, or of our longing for meaning? Perhaps both. We crave significance in the patterns we see, and yet history teaches us caution. Not all mysteries stay mysterious. The once feared comets of ancient days turned out to be icy wanderers. The canals of Mars were illusions of the eye. Sometimes the hidden hand turns out to be nothing more than the steady pull of physics. And yet, sometimes discovery reveals that our imaginations were too small, not too large. Lightning was once thought to be divine. It turned out to be electricity. But electricity, when understood, led us to technology that remade the world. So too, Atlas may reveal not design but natural processes we have never before imagined. Processes that may one day expand our science as radically as electricity once did. So we balance on the edge, natural harmony or hidden hand. Either way, the effect is the same. Humanity looks up, sees order in the heavens, and feels the old stirrings of awe. The difference is only in the source, and that for now remains hidden deep inside Atlas, waiting to show itself. Everywhere we look, the universe hums with rhythm. Stars throb in steady pulses, galaxies spin like wheels, even black holes sing in gravitational waves too faint for the human ear. The cosmos is not static. It beats, it cycles, it resonates. And now, as Atlas moves through our skies, some wonder whether it is part of a rhythm we have only just begun to hear. Astronomers call it synchronization. Independent systems falling into step, not by design, but by shared forces. Pendulum clocks on the same wall, gradually ticking together. Fireflies flashing in unison across a darkened field. Perhaps comets too fall into these rhythms, their arrivals clustered by forces we cannot yet map. But here's what unsettles. Synchronization feels purposeful even when it isn't. Watching objects fall into harmony, the mind whispers of conductors, of choreographers, of hidden scripts. And in the case of Atlas, the timing of its anomalies, its sudden brightness, its erupting jets, its companionship with a swarm of comets, makes the rhythm feel scripted. Could it all be coincidence? Absolutely. The cosmos is vast, and improbability is bound to occur. But still, the clustering, the flickering, the harmony, all these details stack atop one another like notes in a melody. It may be natural, it may be chance, but it feels like music. And the question that lingers, if the universe is playing a song, is Atlas simply one note in the chorus? Or is it the lead instrument, the one carrying the theme we were meant to hear? Whenever we confront patterns, we face the oldest question in human history. Is this the hand of chance or the hand of design? Our ancestors looked to the skies and saw gods in the constellations, messages in eclipses, omens in comets. Today we have equations, models, and physics to replace those myths, but the instinct to search for meaning remains. Atlas sits at the center of this tension. To the cautious scientist, it is an icy traveler behaving oddly, nothing more. To the curious dreamer, it is a messenger, perhaps even a machine, revealing itself through light and rhythm. Both interpretations spring from the same evidence. The difference lies only in how much meaning we allow ourselves to read into the mystery. Design, if it exists, does not need to be alien. It could be the design of physics itself, the laws of gravity, chemistry, and resonance conspiring to produce patterns that feel deliberate. Or it could be something more, a true intelligence, ancient and distant, seeding artifacts into the galaxy like breadcrumbs. Atlas could be one such breadcrumb, drifting into our path at a moment when we are just clever enough to notice. The power of the question lies not in its answer. For now, the answer remains hidden, but in its effect on us. To ask whether Atlas is designed is to admit that the universe may still hold surprises vast enough to unsettle us. And in that admission lies wonder. As Atlas glows brighter, as its hidden heart pushes closer to the sun, we are forced to live with uncertainty. Perhaps it is natural, perhaps it is designed, but either way, it is showing us something we cannot ignore, that the cosmos is alive with mysteries, and we are only just beginning to listen. It is tempting to think of Atlas as a distant curiosity, a green smudge in the sky with no bearing on our daily lives. But the truth is that space never stays out there. The universe is not separate from Earth. It presses against us every second, through gravity, radiation, and the invisible winds of the sun. And sometimes those pressures leave marks we cannot ignore. The year of Atlas has not been quiet for our planet. Storms of charged particles have swept down from the sun, rattling our magnetosphere and painting the skies with auroras that dance far farther south than usual. At the same time, the ground beneath our feet has grown restless. Earthquakes are clustering, some striking in regions already strained, others surprising areas that had slumbered for decades. Coincidence? Almost certainly, the cautious voices say. Space weather and earthquakes share no proven link. One is the dance of plasma across magnetic fields. The other is the grinding of tectonic plates deep beneath Earth's crust. And yet, the timing gnaws at us. Solar storms peak, auroras blaze, and within days the Earth shudders. Over and over, the pattern repeats, close enough to stir unease. And through it all, Atlas approaches, its coma swelling, its jets erupting, its strange flicker pulsing like a beacon. It would be absurd to claim that one comet could stir the ground beneath us. Absurd. And yet the human heart cannot help but wonder. Because if Atlas is part of a larger rhythm, then perhaps that rhythm beats not only in the heavens but here on Earth as well. Consider September 2025. The sun had been quiet for years, drowsing in its long cycle of calm. Then, without warning, it stirred. A coronal hole opened, pouring streams of high-speed solar wind into space. Days later, Earth was struck by a geomagnetic storm strong enough to rattle satellites and paint auroras over cities unaccustomed to green curtains in the sky. 3 days after that, the Kamchatka Peninsula shook with a magnitude 7.8 earthquake. It was not the first. A monster quake had already torn through the region that summer, but the timing was unnerving. A storm from the sky followed by a shudder from the earth. Scientists insist there is no proven causal chain. Tectonic plates move on geological timescales, indifferent to the flickers of the sun. And yet, some researchers quietly wonder if electromagnetic storms might provide the final nudge to faults already strained, a spark to a fuse already laid. The idea remains controversial, but the coincidence of timing is difficult to ignore. Into this picture steps Atlas, erupting with activity, adding its massive plasma cloud to a solar system already charged with turbulence. Its coma is so vast, it interacts with the solar wind itself, a bubble colliding with a river of charged particles. Could such an interaction ripple outward, disturbing the delicate balance of Earth's magnetosphere? Could it amplify the storms already stirring in the sun, tipping Earth into moments of unrest? There is no proof, only patterns. But patterns have power. They keep us awake at night. They drive us to measure, to question, to prepare for the possibility that the cosmos is not as separate from us as we once believed. And so, as the storms above collide with tremors below, Atlas looms in the background, glowing like a reminder. The universe is not distant. It is here, it is now, and it may be reaching out in ways we have only just begun to imagine. High above us, far beyond the clouds and the thin breath of our atmosphere, an invisible shield hums with quiet power. This is Earth's magnetosphere, a magnetic bubble inflated by the molten iron heart of our planet, stretched and sculpted by the constant breath of the sun. Without it, Earth would be stripped bare, its oceans boiled away, its atmosphere peeled off into space. Life as we know it would not exist. Normally this shield does its work in silence. Solar wind slides around it, deflected like water around a stone. But when the sun grows restless, when solar storms rise and charged particles come in torrents, the shield quivers. Its magnetic field lines bend and snap, releasing stored energy in violent bursts that paint the skies with auroras and rattle power grids on the ground. This year, the shield has been under siege. Solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and high-speed winds have struck in rapid succession, pressing against the magnetosphere like waves pounding a ship. And in those moments of strain, Earth feels it. Satellites blink, radio signals falter, transformers hum with dangerous currents. The magnetosphere is resilient, but not unshakable. Into this storm steps Atlas. Its coma, vast enough to rival the sun in width, streams plasma and dust into space. The solar wind does not simply pass through it. It collides, reacts, bends. And when that turbulence ripples outward, it can reach Earth, tugging at the very shield that protects us. The question scientists whisper is this: what happens when Earth's shield, already strained by a stormy sun, feels the added ripple of an interstellar traveler's plasma wake? Does the balance hold, or does it shift in ways we are only beginning to notice? The connection between the skies and the ground beneath our feet has always fascinated and troubled humanity. In ancient times, comets were blamed for plagues, eclipses for wars, and storms in the heavens for the trembling of the earth. Today we dismiss such myths as superstition, yet whispers of connection persist. Modern science insists tectonic plates are driven by forces deep inside Earth, convection currents in the mantle, stresses accumulated over centuries, sudden releases of energy when faults finally give way. Earthquakes, we are told, have nothing to do with the sun, or with comets, or with storms in the sky, and yet the timing gnaws. Solar flares peak, auroras blaze, geomagnetic storms rattle our shield, and days later, the ground shakes. Could this be coincidence? Most likely, yes. And yet, some researchers quietly propose mechanisms that make the link seem less impossible. Electromagnetic disturbances induced by storms can flow into Earth's crust, subtle currents running along fault lines already under pressure. They may not cause quakes outright, but they might nudge a fault that is already on the brink, the final whisper before the shout. Now, fold Atlas into this picture. A body shedding plasma into the solar wind, amplifying turbulence, stirring the invisible seas of charged particles that wash over our planet. If Earth's magnetosphere is already strained, could the additional ripple from Atlas be one more straw on the camel's back? Could it tip the balance, triggering tremors we would otherwise dismiss as purely geological? No one can say for certain. What we have are patterns, strange, unsettling, improbable patterns. And whether the connection is real or imagined, the effect on us is undeniable. We feel the ground beneath us and the sky above us as part of one story. A story where Earth quakes as the heavens storm, and where Atlas, glowing green in the night, seems to stand at the crossroads of both. Every story of the Earth has its stage, and in this chapter the stage is the restless Kamchatka Peninsula. Jutting into the Pacific like a jagged claw, it is one of the most seismically active regions on the planet. Volcanoes line its spine, faults cut through its bedrock, and earthquakes are as common here as storms on the sea. Yet even in a land accustomed to shaking, 2025 has been remarkable. First came the summer quake, a massive rupture that cracked the crust and sent waves racing across the ocean. Entire coastlines braced for tsunamis that, mercifully, did not arrive at full strength. As the region recovered, another struck, even larger, as though the Earth itself were unwilling to rest. And then, almost on cue, the sun erupted. Streams of plasma lashed outward, Earth's magnetosphere trembled, auroras burned in the skies above cities unaccustomed to their glow. Days later, Kamchatka shook again. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the timing feels scripted, almost theatrical. Storm above, tremor below, one following the other like dancers in a choreographed step. Astronomers and geologists argue, each retreating to their disciplines. One insists on magnetism, the other on mantle convection. Yet the public, Watching the news of auroras and earthquakes arrive side by side cannot help but connect them. And there, just behind it all, Atlas. Not the cause, not proven, but present. A glowing green wanderer shedding plasma into a sky already electric. A visitor arriving just as the Earth and Sun choose to dance their uneasy dance. Whether coincidence or catalyst, Atlas becomes the symbol around which the story gathers, the face of a mystery no one can quite explain. What happens in Kamchatka rarely stays in Kamchatka. Earthquakes ripple through the crust, their energy spreading across plates that cover the globe like a cracked eggshell. A shudder in one place can stress faults thousands of miles away, setting the stage for quakes yet to come. And so the story of tremors and storms in 2025 does not belong to one region alone. It belongs to the planet. In South America, the Andes groan under their own weight, releasing energy in a cluster of moderate quakes that surprise even seasoned seismologists. In the Mediterranean, regions of ancient fault lines stir uneasily, hinting at pressures long suppressed. Across Asia, sensors record tremors in chains, as though the Earth were exhaling in staccato bursts. At the same time, the sky is alive. Auroras streak farther south than any living memory, glowing over cities where children stare in awe at curtains of green and red. Satellites report bursts of interference, GPS signals flicker, and power grids hum under the stress of geomagnetically induced currents. The link between storms and quakes remains unproven, but the parallel is uncanny. As the sun surges, the earth shakes. And into this picture, again, Atlas looms. Its coma expands, its light flickers, its jets erupt from hidden chambers within. To scientists, it is still a puzzle of chemistry and physics. To storytellers, it becomes the thread that ties the sky to the ground, the symbol of a season when nothing seems isolated, when everything seems connected. It may be natural, it may be chance, but the impression it leaves is powerful. The earth is not separate from the heavens. When the sky storms, the ground responds. And in the middle of it all, Atlas burns like an omen, silent yet insistent, as though reminding us that we are part of a story far larger than ourselves. For centuries, earthquakes were explained as acts of gods, punishments, or omens. Today we know better, or at least we think we do. We know that quakes arise from faults grinding, pressure building, energy stored deep in the crust until it must be released. But in recent years, a new question has crept in through the side door of science. What if the Earth itself is more electric than we've imagined? During solar storms, vast rivers of charged particles cascade into Earth's magnetosphere. These particles drive currents that flow through the atmosphere, into the oceans, and yes, even through the crust itself. Power grids register these flows as sudden surges. Pipelines hum with unexpected voltages. And seismologists have wondered, if man-made steel can feel the charge, why not stone? Imagine a fault line already primed to rupture, its jagged edges locked, the pressure almost unbearable. A sudden electric surge passes through, tiny compared to the scale of tectonic forces, but perhaps enough to weaken bonds, to trigger the slip that was inevitable but not yet timed. In this way, the sky could provide the whisper that tips the balance, the feather that breaks the camel's back. The idea remains controversial, unproven, and often dismissed. But patterns in timing continue to stir the question. And with Atlas glowing in the heavens, its plasma halo colliding with the solar wind, the possibility feels less like fantasy and more like an experiment unfolding above our heads, one we are all part of, whether we wish it or not. Of course, not everyone agrees. In fact, most in the scientific community are deeply skeptical of any link between solar storms and earthquakes. Their arguments are simple. The forces at work beneath the crust are colossal, measured in billions of tons of pressure and unimaginable heat. Compared to that, a trickle of induced current seems laughably small. The Earth, they insist, is too massive, too stubborn to be nudged by the whispers of space weather. And yet, science has a way of evolving. Ideas once dismissed as absurd, continental drift, black holes, quantum mechanics, later proved not only true, but foundational. Could the same be said, one day, about the idea of an electrically sensitive Earth? Here lies the tension. Skepticism protects us from flights of fancy, but wonder pushes us to test the impossible. Without skepticism, we chase shadows. Without wonder, we miss revolutions. And Atlas, glowing like a question mark in the sky, seems perfectly designed to force us into this balance. Its behavior is so strange, its timing so uncanny, that it invites speculation. It dares us to imagine that perhaps the earth and sky are not separate, but partners in a conversation we have only just begun to overhear. So the debate continues. One side dismisses, the other dreams, and in the middle we watch the green comet burn, shedding dust and plasma into the solar wind. Whether it is coincidence or connection, the result is the same. Humanity feels the tremors of the ground and the flicker of the heavens as part of one great story. And stories, whether true in every detail or not, have the power to reshape how we see the world. Every mystery worth chasing comes with its chorus of doubters. In the case of Atlas and its supposed connection to earthly tremors, the skeptical voices are loud and insistent. They argue with reason that what we see is simply the human mind weaving threads where none exist. Earthquakes, they remind us, are common. At any given moment, dozens of minor quakes rattle the crust. Every year, hundreds of larger ones strike around the globe. To pair them with solar storms is easy, because both occur frequently. The overlap, they say, is statistical inevitability, not hidden design. Consider Kamchatka, a hotbed of seismic activity. It will shake whether or not auroras dance in the sky. Consider the Andes, forever restless as tectonic plates collide. Consider the Pacific Rim, a ring of fire that has burned since long before humanity could read the heavens. To tie these quakes to Atlas, or even to the sun, is to forget that Earth has always been a restless world. And yet, the skeptics, for all their caution, cannot erase the timing. They cannot erase the strange feeling of alignment, storm above, tremor below. They dismiss it as noise, as chance, but the pattern keeps reappearing like an echo that refuses to fade. Skepticism is not the enemy here. It is a necessary companion, the anchor that keeps us from drifting too far into fantasy. But wonder is its opposite pole, and the truth often lies in the tension between them. As Atlas continues its journey, both skepticism and wonder must walk side by side, each asking the same question in different ways. What does this green wanderer truly mean for us? There is another way to see it, not as causation, but as resonance. Perhaps the earth is not being forced by the heavens, but simply echoing them. Imagine a drum skin vibrating when a nearby violin is played, or a glass ringing when the right note is struck. The universe is filled with such harmonies. Why should Earth be any different? When solar storms rattle the magnetosphere, when Atlas stirs the solar wind with its vast coma, perhaps Earth responds not mechanically, but musically. A subtle vibration, a shifting of stresses, a resonance that tips the balance of quakes already waiting to happen. Not a cause, but a chorus. Not an order, but an echo. This idea does not demand alien technology or grand conspiracies of physics. It demands only that we accept Earth as part of a greater symphony, tuned to rhythms we barely understand. The tremors beneath our feet may not be separate from the flicker of Atlas above. They may be verses of the same song, played across the vast instruments of planet and sky. To think this way is to blur boundaries. Earth is not an island sealed from the heavens, but a participant in a larger story. And Atlas, glowing green against the blackness, may be the reminder we needed. That our world vibrates with the universe, and the universe vibrates with us. As the disturbances grow, as the patterns multiply, one thing becomes clear. Whether by chance or by design, Atlas is no longer just a distant traveler. It is part of our story now, woven into the rhythms of Earth itself. For weeks, astronomers tracked the jets of gas erupting from Atlas, plotting their angles, measuring their intensity. At first, the picture seemed simple: sublimating ice, sunlight heating the crust, ordinary cometary behavior. But then came a revelation that made even the most cautious pause. The activity was not only on the surface, it was bursting from within. High-resolution imaging revealed plumes emerging from points that should have been sealed beneath layers of ice and dust. Some eruptions came from deep fissures, as though hollow chambers inside were venting under pressure. The implication was startling. Atlas might not be solid all the way through. This is not without precedent. Many comets are rubble piles, porous collections of fragments loosely bound together, riddled with voids like cosmic honeycombs. But Atlas seemed different. The cavities were not random pockets. They behaved like reservoirs, chambers that filled and emptied in cycles, driving jets that pulsed with eerie regularity. Some scientists shrugged, attributing it to fragile structure. Others leaned forward, whispering about possibilities far stranger. A hollow body, after all, need not be natural. Human engineers carve chambers into machines. Reservoirs imply storage, design, function. What if Atlas were more than ice and dust? What if hidden beneath its crust there were chambers not carved by accident, but by intention? No one dares to claim it outright. The leap from hollow spaces to alien design is wide and perilous. Yet the thought lingers, because the more we look, the more Atlas behaves like something meant to open, meant to show. Its hollow heart may be the stage upon which the rest of the mystery will soon be revealed. If hollow chambers hinted at a secret interior, the plasma made it undeniable that something extraordinary was unfolding. Plasma is the fourth state of matter, neither solid, liquid, nor gas, but a soup of charged particles that behaves like fire and fluid all at once. The sun is plasma, lightning is plasma, and now, astonishingly, Atlas seems to be cloaked in it. Telescopes recorded strange emissions around the comet, a halo far larger than expected, glowing with ionized gases that should not be so active at its distance from the sun. In fact, the plasma bubble around Atlas was measured to be nearly half the size of the sun itself, an impossible magnitude for a body so small. Where did this energy come from? Some proposed exotic ices, volatile compounds exploding into space. Others suggested electromagnetic interactions between Atlas's coma and the solar wind, creating turbulence like sparks flying from a live wire. But still, the scale defied explanation. A comet should not carry a plasma envelope vast enough to rival a star. More unsettling were the patterns within the plasma itself. Observers noted filaments, streamers, arcs that resembled magnetic field lines. It was as though Atlas carried its own magnetic skeleton, shaping the plasma like the sun shapes the solar wind. A comet with a magnetosphere? The idea seemed absurd, and yet the data whispered of exactly that. Speculation bloomed. Could the hollow chambers within Atlas be storing volatile gases, releasing them in bursts that generate electrical currents? Could it be a natural plasma engine revealing a process we have never seen before? Or, and here the leap becomes irresistible, could those chambers house something more deliberate? A structure designed to harness plasma as power. The universe has always surprised us with phenomena that feel like technology, but prove to be natural. But Atlas, with its hollow heart and impossible plasma, continues to blur the line. Whether nature's invention or something older, something crafted, its enigma grows brighter with every passing night. When astronomers speak of hollow structures in comets, the first instinct is to explain them as natural. After all, ice and rock are not solid monoliths but fragile mixtures. As they warm, gases sublimate, carving voids that grow larger over time. Cavities form, pressure builds, walls collapse, and jets burst outward in violent plumes. A comet, in this view, is not unlike a sponge, porous, riddled with hidden chambers, fragile at its core. Atlas could be just that, a sponge of alien ice, sculpted by the chemistry of another star. Its hollow chambers may be nothing more than the scars of deep processes we don't yet understand. Exotic ices, unfamiliar to us, could behave in ways that mimic order without intention, and yet the regularity unsettles. Atlas does not simply vent randomly. Its jets appear timed, pulsing in patterns too steady to dismiss. The cavities do not collapse chaotically, but refill and empty in cycles. This is not the image of a sponge falling apart. It is the image of reservoirs being tapped again and again. This is where the thought grows dangerous. If these chambers act like storage, could they have been carved deliberately? Engineers on Earth carve tanks into rock. They bore tunnels into mountains. They build reservoirs to hold energy until the moment it is needed. Could Atlas be a machine disguised as a comet, or perhaps a fragment of something larger, an ancient relic hollowed by design? Most scientists recoil from such leaps, but the line between natural and artificial is not always clear. Once, humans mistook crystals for crafted gems, only to learn that nature herself is a master builder. If nature can produce perfection, might technology mimic chaos? In Atlas, the two blur until the distinction itself begins to dissolve. Long before telescopes, comets were the strangers of the sky, feared, revered, and interpreted as messages from the gods. Ancient chronicles are filled with their appearances, often tied to plagues, wars, or the death of kings. To our ancestors, a comet's hollow glow was not ice and dust, but the lantern of fate itself. Among these myths are curious references to hollow stars or empty fires drifting across the heavens. Medieval texts describe comets as shells that open to release omens. Some cultures spoke of celestial vessels, hollow containers carrying spirits or warnings. These were metaphors born of awe and ignorance, and yet, in the story of Atlas, they feel strangely prescient. For here we are in the 21st century, watching a comet that truly does appear hollow, its chambers venting gas like lungs exhaling in the dark. Its glow is no simple reflection of sunlight, but a shifting veil of plasma, alive with movement. And like the ancients, we find ourselves wondering, what is it carrying inside? The difference is only in language. Where they spoke of gods, we speak of physics. Where they imagined spirits, we imagine reservoirs, engines, or even relics of alien craft. But the feeling is the same. Awe mixed with unease, the sense of a visitor that is not merely passing but revealing. Perhaps Atlas is simply another comet, its hollow heart no different from countless icy wanderers before it. Or perhaps, as the ancients believed, it is a sign, not of doom, but of mystery. A reminder that the heavens still have the power to make us look up, to weave stories, to wonder if the hollow lights in the sky might carry truths we are not yet ready to hear. There is a question that astronomers rarely ask aloud, and when they do, it is often with a nervous laugh. Could this comet be something more than ice and dust? Could it be a probe? The idea is not as outrageous as it sounds. In 2018, Oumuamua passed through our solar system on a hyperbolic path, accelerating in a way no comet should. Theories bloomed. Perhaps it was a fragment of hydrogen ice, perhaps a pancake of exotic rock. But one voice, that of Harvard's Avi Loeb, dared to suggest the unthinkable, that it might be a piece of alien technology, a light sail or probe adrift between stars. The scientific community pushed back, but the public never forgot. The possibility had been spoken. Now, years later, Atlas arrives, its hollow chambers venting in cycles, its plasma bubbles swelling beyond reason, its light flickering like a coded rhythm. The similarities are hard to ignore. Oumuamua raised the question. Borisov reassured us with something more ordinary, and now Atlas seems to raise the question again, louder this time. What if this is not simply geology from another star? What if it is engineering, a vessel, a beacon, or the drifting carcass of a machine older than humanity itself? Skeptics dismiss it. They point to natural processes, to ices sublimating, to the chaos of comets. They remind us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and so far, evidence points only to anomaly, not intention. Yet the possibility lingers, whispering like static in the back of the mind. If Atlas is a probe, it does not announce itself with beacons or transmissions. It announces itself with mystery, with behavior that draws our eyes, our questions, our sleepless nights. And perhaps that, in itself, is the point. Perhaps its purpose is not to send us a message, but to make us look, to remind us we are not alone in the dark. Once the idea of alien megastructures belonged strictly to science fiction. Dyson spheres, star-encompassing engines, colossal relics orbiting suns. These were dreams of novelists, not astronomers. But then, in 2015, the star KIC 8462852, better known as Tabby's star, flickered in ways that defied explanation. Some proposed dust clouds, others suggested planetary debris, but the most audacious whispered, perhaps this was the shadow of a megastructure passing between us and the light. That idea too was dismissed, yet it cracked the door. Astronomers began to speak more freely of the possibility that advanced civilizations might leave behind vast detectable artifacts. The cosmos, after all, is old. If life arises easily, if intelligence persists, then surely someone, somewhere, has built on a scale beyond our imagining. And so, when Atlas reveals a plasma halo half the size of the sun, when it flickers with rhythms too neat to dismiss, when it vents as though hollow chambers are opening and closing, the thought of megastructures returns. Not a sphere around a star, perhaps, but a fragment, a shard of something once vast, a piece of machinery broken loose and wandering, disguised as a comet until the moment it stirs again. The cautious voices remind us that natural phenomena often mimic the impossible. Nature has built mountains that look like pyramids, crystals that seem sculpted, storms that move with the grace of design. But sometimes the reverse is true. Technology, especially ancient technology, may cloak itself in nature's mask. To us, the line between the two blurs until we cannot say which side we are standing on. Atlas sits squarely on that line. Whether it is natural, engineered, or some fusion of both, it forces us to widen our imagination. For if megastructures are possible, if civilizations can truly build on cosmic scales, then a hollow, flickering comet may be not a curiosity but a clue, a shard of a larger truth we have only begun to glimpse. Ice is simple, or so we think. On Earth, it is frozen water. In our comets, it is a mixture of water, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia. But in the cold nurseries of other stars, where light and heat sculpt different chemistries, ice may take forms we have never seen. Atlas, born around another sun, carries this alien signature. Its spectrum shows unusual ratios of carbon compounds, glowing green with cyanogen and diatomic carbon in volumes far beyond what we expect. These molecules behave differently than our familiar ices. They vaporize at lower temperatures, erupt more violently, and leave behind residues that sparkle with spectral fingerprints unknown to our laboratories. Astronomers suspect Atlas is layered, water ice beneath, exotic volatiles above, a stratigraphy shaped by another solar system's history. But when sunlight touches it, the result is not gradual release but sudden violence. Jets roar outward, chambers collapse, plasma envelopes swell. To us, this feels unnatural, even engineered. But perhaps it is simply the voice of alien chemistry, speaking in a dialect we have never heard. And yet, questions remain. The activity is too early, too intense, too structured. Alien ice may explain part of the story, but not the flickering light, not the rhythmic jets, not the vast plasma halo that rivals the size of the sun. If this is only chemistry, it is chemistry performing like theatre, choosing its moments, timing its bursts as though it knows we are watching. Perhaps this is the lesson of Atlas, that ice is not simple, that alien ices behave in ways that blur the line between geology and intention. In its glow, we see not only the physics of another star, but the possibility that nature itself can perform like a machine. But what if it is more than chemistry? What if Atlas is not merely venting, but operating? The idea sounds like science fiction, a comet as an engine, yet the evidence teases the imagination. Consider the hollow chambers. They refill and release like pistons, cycling in rhythm. Consider the plasma halo, vast and turbulent, structured by magnetic lines as though sculpted by purpose. Consider the flickering light, a pulse too regular to dismiss as chaos. Each of these could be coincidence. Together they form a pattern that whispers of function. If Atlas is an engine, what is it driving? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps it is a relic, long dead, still sputtering with the embers of forgotten technology. Or perhaps it is alive with purpose, steering itself across the void, powered by plasma bursts too faint for us to comprehend. Some dreamers even suggest it could be a seed, a cosmic arc carrying something precious across the galaxy, its engine designed not for speed, but for endurance. Skeptics counter that all engines we know require precision, control, materials, and intent. A comet, porous and chaotic, is the opposite of that. Yet history reminds us that life and intelligence can emerge from forms once thought impossible. Nature builds engines of its own, stars fusing hydrogen, black holes spinning jets across millions of light years. Why not a smaller echo of such processes, hidden in the body of a comet? The engine hypothesis may remain speculation, but in Atlas, speculation feels less like fantasy and more like prophecy. For as it moves closer to the sun, its eruptions grow stronger, its halo expands, and its flicker brightens. Whatever lies within, whether nature's invention or someone's design, it behaves less like an accident and more like a system. And that single word, system, changes everything. Light isn't the only thing Atlas is giving off. In recent weeks, observatories tracking its passage have noticed something even stranger: bursts of radiation, faint but distinct, pulsing in intervals that no one can yet explain. At first, these pulses were dismissed as background noise, cosmic rays, solar interference, the static of the universe. But then, the timing revealed itself. Every few hours, Atlas seems to emit a whisper of energy, a spike on the monitors. Not powerful enough to threaten Earth, not structured enough to be called a signal, but regular enough to be impossible to ignore. Scientists scramble for explanations. Perhaps collapsing cavities inside the comet are releasing bursts of charged particles. Perhaps its plasma halo is interacting with the solar wind, creating miniature storms that register as radiation. Perhaps the flickering light we see is mirrored by invisible pulses, carried across the electromagnetic spectrum like echoes of the same hidden process. But the unnerving question remains: why so regular? Nature loves cycles, yes, but these pulses feel too insistent, too steady, like the beat of a drum deep within the comet's hollow chest. The probe theorists leap on this detail, whispering that a machine reveals itself in rhythm. Engineers know the value of cycles, pistons, gears, engines, reactors, all built on repetition. To them, Atlas's radiation pulses sound less like chaos and more like machinery still struggling to wake. It may be natural, it may be chance. But there, in the darkness, Atlas beats like a heart we cannot see, sending out faint pulses across the void, a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are not the brightest, but the quietest. It is tempting to dismiss such ideas as fantasy, to reassure ourselves that comets are only ice and dust, nothing more. But history whispers caution. Time and again, the universe has revealed truths stranger than anything we dared to invent. Once, people imagined that the Earth was the center of everything, unmoving, unchallenged. Then came Copernicus, then Galileo, and the truth was stranger. We are adrift around a star, one of billions. Once we thought stars were eternal candles. Then physics showed us that they are colossal furnaces, born, burning, and dying in cycles. Once we thought space was empty. Now we know it seethes with dark matter, dark energy, and invisible storms of particles beyond counting. Each revelation was more unsettling, more extraordinary than the myths it replaced. The universe has never been smaller or simpler than we imagined. It has always been larger, more mysterious, more alive with surprises. And so when Atlas flickers, when it pulses with radiation, when its hollow chambers breathe jets of gas like the pistons of a hidden engine, we should not be too quick to laugh. Skepticism is wise, but arrogance is not. If history has taught us anything, it is that the universe is capable of wonders that make even our boldest stories look tame. Perhaps Atlas is only ice, perhaps it is only dust, but perhaps it is also something more, a reminder that fiction is often just practice for reality, and when reality arrives, it rarely knocks softly. It arrives glowing green, wrapped in plasma, pulsing in the dark like a secret waiting to be told. What if Atlas is not a comet at all, but a fragment of something far larger? Some astronomers quietly entertain this possibility, that what we are seeing is not an icy wanderer, but the broken piece of a planet long lost to time. Across the galaxy, worlds are not immortal. They collide, they crumble. Some are consumed by their stars, others ripped apart by tidal forces, still others shattered in cosmic accidents too violent to imagine. When such destruction occurs, fragments scatter, some inward, some outward, some flung so far they escape the gravity of their home systems entirely. In time, they become interstellar travelers. Atlas, with its hollow chambers and strange chemistry, could be one such shard. Its plasma halo may not be the behavior of a comet, but the echo of geological processes locked inside fractured rock. Perhaps those hollow cavities are not random voids, but the collapsed remains of underground oceans or ancient lava tubes. Perhaps what we see is the death mask of a world, a fragment carrying the memory of mountains and seas that once were. The thought is haunting. To watch Atlas drift past is to look upon a relic of catastrophe, a piece of a planet we will never know, born around a star we may never see, carrying within it the silent testimony of life that may or may not have been. It is only speculation, of course, but as we stare at its flickering glow, it is hard not to wonder, are we witnessing not just a comet, but the last heartbeat of a shattered world? Speculation takes darker turns too. For if Atlas is not the shard of a planet broken by nature, could it be the wreckage of something destroyed by intention? Could it be debris from a conflict so ancient and vast that its echoes still drift between the stars? Science fiction has long imagined galactic wars, civilizations spanning light years clashing with weapons beyond comprehension. To skeptics, such visions belong in novels, not telescopes. And yet, when we see Atlas with its hollow chambers, its plasma halo, its strange regular pulses, the imagination stirs. What if those chambers were not natural caverns but hangars? What if the plasma bubble was once a power field, a shield, or the remnant of a weapon? What if the flicker of its light is not the rhythm of ice sublimating, but the broken pulse of machinery that once served a greater purpose? If so, Atlas would not be a visitor by chance, but a refugee of destruction, a fragment of a vessel, a station, or even a planet shattered in battle long before humanity existed. It drifts now as wreckage, its systems sputtering, its secrets locked away, crossing the gulf of stars as a silent witness to wars we cannot imagine. It may be fantasy, but history has shown us that the line between myth and reality is thin. Once, lightning was the weapon of gods. Now it is electricity harnessed by human hands. Once, comets were omens of death. Now they are icy travelers, though still capable of stirring unease. If galactic wars have ever scarred the universe, their ruins would look no different from wandering debris, and Atlas, flickering, hollow, enigmatic, could be one such ruin. Whether natural shard or relic of conflict, Atlas reminds us of one truth: the universe is ancient, and we are young. What we see as mystery may be nothing more than history too vast for us to grasp. There is one constant in the story of the cosmos: humanity's hunger for patterns. We cannot help it. From the moment our ancestors first looked up at the night sky, they joined dots into constellations, saw animals and gods where there were only stars. It is the same instinct that makes us hear whispers in static, faces in clouds, stories in flickers of light. When Atlas pulses, when its hollow chambers vent like lungs, when its plasma stretches across half the sky, we are doing what we have always done: interpreting. Some see science, some see omens, some see technology. None of these views is wrong. They are simply reflections of the lens through which we watch. History is filled with similar moments. Strange lights in the heavens once foretold kings' deaths. Later, they were revealed as supernovae. The canals of Mars, sketched by eager eyes, were illusions. Yet they sparked dreams that inspired generations of explorers. Even the discovery of pulsars began with a mystery so precise that astronomers jokingly labeled it LGM, little green men, before learning it was the rhythm of a spinning neutron star. In each case, the anomaly forced us to ask questions larger than we were ready to answer. Some interpretations were wrong, some closer to truth, but all of them drove us forward. Atlas now joins that tradition, becoming not just an object in space, but a mirror reflecting our instinct to seek meaning in the unknown. What makes Atlas so compelling is not only what it is, but what it represents: a continuation of a long line of mysteries that began as anomalies and ended as revolutions. Consider magnetism. Once thought to be a magical force, it was little more than a curiosity of lodestones. Today, it guides ships, powers machines, and shields entire planets. Or consider lightning. Once feared as divine wrath, it became the key to electricity, unlocking an age of industry. Radio waves, first dismissed as useless noise, became the foundation of global communication. Each began as an unexplained flicker, an oddity dismissed or feared, until it changed everything. Atlas feels like one of those flickers. Perhaps it will prove natural, just another comet behaving badly. But perhaps, like magnetism, lightning, or pulsars, it is a puzzle piece that will expand the map of human knowledge. Its hollow chambers, its plasma envelope, its strange rhythms. These may be hints of processes we do not yet understand, forces waiting to be named, technologies waiting to be imagined. The lesson of history is clear. Anomalies matter. They are the cracks through which the future leaks in. To dismiss them is to risk missing the next revolution. So when Atlas flickers in the night sky, we do what humanity has always done. We watch, we wonder, we imagine. And in that act of imagination, we prepare ourselves for discoveries that may, once again, prove stranger than anything we had dared to believe. For all the data, for all the debates, the truth is this: Atlas is not only a scientific event, it is a human one. To step outside on a clear night, to tilt your head back and see the faint smear of green glowing against the stars, is to feel something ancient stir inside you. Awe. Awe is older than science. It is the first emotion the sky ever gave us. Long before telescopes, before equations, before names like Atlas or Oumuamua, there was only the naked eye and the question, what is that? A question filled with wonder and fear in equal measure. And now, standing beneath this new visitor, the same feeling returns. Children gape at the auroras dancing farther south than memory allows. Amateur astronomers share grainy photos of a ghostly green blur. Even those who never look at the sky sense that something unusual is happening, a presence pressing against the edges of daily life. The emotional weight of Atlas is not in its chemistry or orbits, but in its mystery. It reminds us that the universe is vast, that we are small, and that the future is still filled with surprises. In an age of screens and certainty, to feel awe again, true awe, the kind that silences words, is itself a revelation. And so, whether it proves to be ice or artifact, engine or accident, Atlas has already fulfilled one purpose. It has made us look up and remember what it means to feel wonder beneath the sky. But awe has two faces. Alongside wonder comes fear. For as long as humanity has watched the heavens, comets have carried a shadow. To the ancients, they foretold disaster. To modern minds, they raise quieter but no less haunting worries. What if Atlas is dangerous? Its coma, vast as half the sun, glows with unpredictable power. Its trajectory, while not aimed at Earth, passes close enough to remind us how fragile we are. If a body like this were on a collision course, there would be little we could do. Awe shades into dread, and the green glow becomes a warning. Yet awe also feeds hope. Perhaps Atlas is not a threat, but a gift, a messenger carrying secrets from another star. Perhaps its plasma teaches us new physics. Its hollow chambers reveal processes we never imagined. Perhaps it is not a herald of doom, but of discovery, pushing us to expand, to grow, to rise, to meet the universe with new courage. And so humanity stands divided, as it always has when the sky sends visitors. Some see danger, others opportunity. Some whisper of endings, others of beginnings. Both may be true, for awe contains them both, the fear of what we cannot control and the hope of what we might yet learn. Atlas, glowing above us, does not answer either way. It only burns, green, steady, silent, leaving us to decide how we will carry the weight of its mystery, as a burden of dread or as a spark of hope. Every age has looked up at the night sky and heard a voice in it. For the Babylonians, a comet's arrival meant kings would fall. For the Chinese dynasties, it foretold famine or rebellion. In medieval Europe, comets were painted as flaming swords, slicing across the heavens in warning. To indigenous peoples across the Americas and the Pacific, they were spirit messengers. Omens, yes, but also guides. The language differed, but the theme was constant. The heavens were not silent. When something strange appeared, a new star, a streak of fire, a wandering green glow, it was not dismissed as chance. It was woven into the fabric of life. Farmers adjusted harvests, priests prepared rituals, leaders braced for change. What is striking, reading these old accounts, is how deeply comets tied themselves to human stories. They were never just there. They were for us, symbols, warnings, promises. The sky was a mirror, and every culture saw itself reflected in the glow. Now, in the 21st century, one might think we've outgrown that instinct. We have telescopes, equations, spacecraft. We tell ourselves comets are only icy wanderers, their comas nothing more than sunlight striking volatile gases. And yet when Atlas streaks across our skies, glowing green and unpredictable, the old feeling returns, the sense that the sky is speaking again and we are being asked to listen. Today our myths wear the clothes of science. We no longer speak of flaming swords, but of plasma envelopes. We no longer invoke spirits, but engines. We no longer call them omens, but anomalies. Yet the emotional core is the same. Scroll through social media and you'll see it. Photos of Atlas blurred into emerald streaks, captioned with awe, unease, speculation, threads of debate. Is it a probe, a sign, a fragment of something vast? Scientists weigh in, skeptics roll their eyes, dreamers lean in. It is the same dynamic that played out in ancient courts and villages, only dressed in modern words. And just as in ages past, Atlas divides us into camps. To some, it is a harbinger, not of doom, but of turbulence, of storms in the sun, of earthquakes shaking the crust. To others, it is a teacher arriving to stretch our understanding, to remind us that the universe is bigger, stranger, and more alive than we allow ourselves to imagine. That duality, fear and wonder, omen and gift, is the heartbeat of every comet story ever told. And Atlas, glowing with its hollow chambers and pulsing plasma, slots neatly into the oldest archetype of all, the messenger. We do not yet know its message, but we feel it carries one, just as our ancestors once did, gazing upward in awe and trembling. The myths were never about prediction, they were about connection, and Atlas, centuries later, is serving the same purpose. It has drawn us together under one sky, reminded us that we are small, fragile, and curious, and that no matter how much science we acquire, we remain human beings staring into the dark, searching for meaning in the glow of a stranger's light. Every comet's life is measured by its relationship with the sun. Far out in the cold, it sleeps, frozen, inert, barely distinguishable from any other lump of rock. But as it falls inward, warmth awakens it. Ice sublimates, jets erupt, tails unfurl. It becomes alive, visible, dramatic. And then, at the closest point comes the trial, perihelion. For Atlas, that moment is approaching. Its path is set, its rendezvous with fire inevitable. Soon it will skim past the sun at a distance close enough to test every hollow chamber, every volatile reservoir, every fragile wall within. Many comets do not survive such encounters. They fragment, torn apart by tidal forces and solar heat. Some vanish entirely, leaving behind only a ghost of dust. Others flare brilliantly, their death throes illuminating the sky in one final blaze. Scientists know this. They watch Atlas with instruments ready, waiting to see whether it will endure, disintegrate, or transform. But Atlas is not just any comet. It is an interstellar visitor, a body carrying chemistry and mysteries from another star. Its plasma halo is already vast, its behavior already defiant of expectations. If it reacts to the sun in unusual ways, the revelations could rewrite more than cometary science. They could alter our sense of what interstellar matter is capable of. And so, as the days tick down toward perihelion, a strange tension fills the air. We are not simply watching a comet approach the sun. We are watching a secret approach its unveiling, a locked chest carried toward a flame where it must either shatter or reveal what lies inside. The scientific community is divided between excitement and dread. On one side are those who hope Atlas survives intact, its chambers still venting, its plasma still glowing, so they can study it for months or even years. On the other side are those who suspect its fate will be sudden and violent, a breakup that scatters its secrets into dust before we can truly grasp them. If it survives, the rewards could be profound. Instruments could continue to measure its pulses, its chemistry, its structure. Future missions might even be redirected to intercept its path, sampling an interstellar visitor more complex than any we've yet seen. Survival means knowledge, patient, detailed, transformative. But if it breaks apart, the spectacle will be extraordinary. Its coma could bloom into a sky-wide display, its fragments glowing like lanterns across the heavens. The night sky could bear witness to a show not seen in centuries, a celestial performance that will live in human memory. Yet beauty would come at a cost, the comet's secrets, scattered too finely to recover, lost to the void. There is another fear, quieter, seldom spoken aloud. What if perihelion triggers not just light, but revelation? What if Atlas is more than cometary chemistry? If it harbors machinery, if it is a shard of something designed, then the heat of the sun could awaken processes we are unprepared to see. It could flare not as a natural death, but as an activation. The hopes and fears circle around the same truth. Perihelion is not just a passage, it is a test for Atlas, for our instruments, and for our imagination. What happens when fire meets mystery? We are about to find out. Every great story has a moment when tension peaks, when all threads converge and the outcome is unknown. For Atlas, that moment is perihelion. And unlike so many mysteries of the cosmos, this one will not linger in the far future. It will unfold before our eyes in real time. As it dives toward the sun, telescopes across the globe are trained on it. Spacecraft in orbit adjust their instruments, waiting for the data flood. Amateur astronomers prepare too, setting up cameras, ready to catch the glow from backyards and hilltops. This is no distant theory. It is a drama unfolding live, across days and hours, with the whole world watching. The questions pile up. Will Atlas flare in brilliance, outshining stars, a beacon visible to millions? Will it fragment into pieces, scattering its mystery into dust? Or will it endure, stubborn and strange, surviving the fire to continue its journey deeper into our solar system? Every great story has a moment when tension peaks, when all threads converge and the outcome is unknown. For Atlas, that moment is perihelion, and unlike so many mysteries of the cosmos, this one will not linger in the far future. It will unfold before our eyes, in real time. As it dives toward the sun, telescopes across the globe are trained on it. Spacecraft in orbit adjust their instruments, waiting for the data flood. Amateur astronomers prepare too, setting up cameras, ready to catch the glow from backyards and hilltops. This is no distant theory. It is a drama unfolding live, across days and hours, with the whole world watching. The questions pile up. Will Atlas flare in brilliance, outshining stars, a beacon visible to millions? Will it fragment into pieces, scattering its mystery into dust? Or will it endure, stubborn and strange, surviving the fire to continue its journey deeper into our solar system? And then there are the wilder possibilities. What if its hollow chambers open fully, releasing something unexpected? What if the radiation pulses intensify, no longer whispers but declarations? What if the plasma envelope grows so vast that Earth itself feels its touch? These are not certainties, they are possibilities, but the suspense is real and it binds us together. For once, humanity finds itself united in a single act, looking up, waiting, holding its breath as a visitor from another star prepares to show its face in the fire of our own sun. Rarely does a moment in astronomy capture more than scientists, but Atlas has already escaped the boundaries of labs and observatories. It is on the news, in classrooms, in whispers between strangers. It has seeped into art, into poetry, into the late-night musings of those who rarely think of the sky at all. As perihelion nears, humanity's collective gaze tilts upward. Billions will not see it with their own eyes. City lights will drown it. Clouds will hide it. Geography will keep it from view. But still, they will feel it, through images, through words, through the simple knowledge that something is happening, something rare and unrepeatable. There is a strange intimacy in this, a sense that we are not alone in our watching, that across continents and time zones, people are joined in curiosity, waiting for the same glow, the same revelation. In a fractured world, Atlas offers a fleeting unity, a reminder that, beneath our divisions, we share the same sky. And then, layered over hope, comes fear. If Atlas breaks apart, is it gone forever? If it survives, what might it reveal? If it carries secrets we are not prepared for, will we even recognize them? Awe and dread entwine, indistinguishable, inseparable. This is the emotional climax of the story. Not what Atlas is, but what it does to us. It forces us to wait, to wonder, to admit we are still creatures who look to the heavens for meaning, even in an age of data and machines. And as the Green Wanderer nears its fiery trial, one truth is undeniable: the world is watching. And together, for a moment, we are holding our breath. Every comet meets its reckoning at perihelion, and now Atlas has faced its own trial. For days, the world's instruments hummed, its telescopes turned sunward, its watchers waited. And then came the silence, the moment when Atlas passed behind the blaze of the sun, hidden from view, its fate unknowable. This is the most suspenseful part of any comet's story, the disappearance. In that gap, anything is possible. Perhaps it disintegrated entirely, its body torn apart by the sun's gravity, its icy heart boiled into nothingness. Perhaps it fractured into dozens of shards, each glowing briefly before scattering into dust. Or perhaps, against all odds, it endured, emerging from the fire brighter than before, reborn like a phoenix in green light. And when it reappeared, when the first images flickered back across screens and feeds, humanity leaned forward as one. Was Atlas still there? Was the green glow intact? Had the hollow wanderer survived the fire? The answer was not simple. What came back was changed. Its coma was altered, its brightness unpredictable, its jets erratic yet strangely patterned. Not destruction, not survival, but transformation. Atlas had gone into the sun as one thing and emerged as another, its mystery deepened, not resolved. And with that, a new chapter began, not of anticipation, but of reckoning. What had the fire revealed, and what had it hidden even deeper? The story of Atlas after perihelion can be told in two voices. The first is the voice of endings. In this telling, the comet breaks apart, scattering its secrets beyond recovery. Its hollow chambers collapse, its plasma envelope disperses, its rhythm of pulses silenced forever. It dies as many comets do, undone by the star's relentless fire. In this version, Atlas becomes memory, a brief visitor, an unsolved riddle, a beauty lost to time. But the second voice is the voice of beginnings. Here, Atlas survives, though scarred, though changed. Its coma swells with new energy, its jets fire in fresh patterns, its pulses grow louder. Perhaps the fire-awakened processes buried deep inside. Perhaps what seemed like fragility was preparation. Perhaps perihelion was not an end, but a trigger. Both voices hold truth. For whether Atlas was broken or reborn, it has already changed us. It reminded us that the cosmos is alive with drama, that the smallest visitor can hold the greatest mystery, that awe still has power in a world crowded with noise. And so we face the aftermath not with closure, but with deeper curiosity. If Atlas has perished, it leaves us haunted by what we will never know. If it has survived, it promises revelations still to come. Either way, the story is not over, because the Green Wanderer has already done what all great mysteries do. It has left us restless, searching, alive with questions too big to answer. The moment Atlas cleared the sun's glare, the instruments came alive. Telescopes from Earth and space fed streams of raw numbers, brightness curves, spectra, magnetic field shifts, radiation counts. To the untrained eye, it looked like static. But to scientists, it was treasure, the scattered ashes of a story written in light. This is the quiet aftermath of every cosmic event. The drama fades from the sky, and the real work begins in labs and observatories. Weeks of data to sift, anomalies to cross-check, signals to compare against models. Already, early whispers circulate. strange chemical ratios that don't fit expectations, plasma turbulence that behaves less like gas and more like a system, radiation pulses that seem stronger now than before perihelion, as if something within Atlas was awakened by fire. Theories multiply. Some insist the data still fits natural explanations. Exotic ices boiling off, cracks deepening, chaos masquerading as order. Others argue the patterns are too clean, too stubborn. They speak of cycles, structures, processes that hint at something deeper, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth, waiting for patient eyes to untangle it. Because if history teaches anything, it is that revolutions in science often hide in the noise, in the small anomalies no one can explain away. Atlas, in its silence, has given us such anomalies in abundance. The numbers themselves are only half the story. The other half lives in what they do to us. Because each spectrum, each curve, each unexplained pulse becomes not just data, but invitation. An invitation to imagine what lies beyond the edge of our understanding. Already, writers and thinkers weave Atlas into new myths. Artists paint it as a green lantern crossing the dark. Philosophers write of its hollow heart as metaphor, a mirror for our own search for meaning. Even scientists, cautious as they are, allow themselves quiet wonder. In conferences and private notes, they admit it feels different. It feels like more than just another comet. This blending of fact and imagination is not weakness, it is fuel. Without imagination, data is only numbers. Without data, imagination is only dream. Together, they form the spark that drives discovery. The history of science is filled with such unions. Kepler imagining celestial harmonies, Darwin seeing endless forms in fossils, Einstein envisioning clocks on trains. Atlas now joins that lineage, forcing us to think not only of what is, but of what might be. In this way, its greatest gift may not be in the answers it provides, but in the questions it awakens. Questions about life, about intelligence, about whether the universe holds secrets older and stranger than we dare to believe. And so, as the data is passed, humanity finds itself in a familiar place, poised between knowledge and wonder, skeptical yet dreaming, waiting for the moment when imagination gives way to revelation, and the story of Atlas becomes part of the story of us. Every visitor leaves a mark, and Atlas will be no different. Long after its green glow fades from the sky, long after its plasma halo collapses into silence, humanity will carry the memory of this comet-turned mystery. The question is, how will we remember it? Some will recall it as a scientific anomaly, the third interstellar object ever confirmed, with chemistry unlike any other. It will live in textbooks as a data set, a case study in cometary behavior, a reminder that the cosmos is filled with surprises. Others will remember it as an omen, whether of storms, quakes, or the fragile unity it briefly gave us. For a moment, billions looked to the sky together, joined by curiosity, awe, and unease. In a fractured world, that unity mattered. It was rare, fragile, and fleeting, yet real, and some will remember it as a symbol of possibility, the probe that might have been, the shard of a world that might once have lived, the engine that might still be sputtering in the dark. These memories will not fade quickly, because even if Atlas proves natural, the ideas it stirred in us will remain. History teaches us that such visitors are written not only in records, but in stories. Halley's Comet appeared in ancient tapestries, medieval chronicles, and modern novels. Shoemaker Levy 9 was immortalized in images of Jupiter scarred by fire. Atlas will join that lineage, its story told and retold, each generation finding new meaning in the green wanderer that made the world pause and look up. The real legacy of Atlas may not be what it revealed, but what it inspired. Every question it raised becomes fuel for the next generation of seekers. Children who stayed up late to watch auroras or green streaks across the sky may grow into astronomers, engineers, storytellers. The seeds planted in their imagination tonight may blossom decades from now into discoveries that trace their roots back to this very moment. Atlas also leaves behind data, mountains of it, radiation pulses, plasma signatures, chemical fingerprints. For years, scientists will mine that treasure, building models, testing hypotheses, sharpening instruments for the next interstellar visitor. Atlas has already changed how we prepare, how we observe, how we think about the unknown. Its legacy is not only memory, but method, and beyond science, it leaves behind something subtler: permission. Permission to wonder, to speculate, to let imagination stretch. For a world often burdened by certainty, by cynicism, Atlas offered a reminder that mysteries still exist, that the universe is larger and stranger than we admit. That reminder may prove as valuable as any discovery hidden in its spectrum. When the green glow fades, what remains is a story, one carried forward by those who will look back and say, "I was alive when Atlas passed. I saw the sky change. I felt the mystery." That is how legacies are born, not in answers, but in the questions that linger long after the visitor has gone. Every great mystery leaves behind more questions than answers. Atlas is no exception. Was it only ice and dust, sculpted by alien chemistry into strange behaviors? Or was it something more, a relic, a machine, an echo of intelligence adrift across the stars? We do not yet know, perhaps we never will, but maybe the purpose of a visitor like Atlas is not to give answers. Maybe it is to remind us that questions still exist, that we have not mapped all the patterns, solved all the riddles, written all the stories the universe has to tell. Atlas is not only a comet but a messenger. Not because it carries words, but because it carries silence. A silence that demands we fill it with our wonder, our science, our imagination. For centuries, comets have been cast as omens, as portents, as signs. In truth, they are none of these. They are what we make of them. And Atlas, in its green glow and hollow chambers, has become what we needed it to be. A reminder that we are small, that the cosmos is vast, and that mystery still walks among us. We name it, we measure it, we debate it. But in the end, what Atlas truly leaves behind is a question carried not in data alone, but in the eyes of everyone who looked up and felt, if only for a moment, the presence of something greater moving through the dark. Now the glow fades. The comet drifts onward, away from the sun, its plasma halo shrinking, its brightness dimming. Soon it will vanish from naked sight, another wanderer slipping into the archives of memory. But though Atlas leaves our skies, it does not leave us unchanged. Its legacy is not its chemistry or its orbit, but its invitation. An invitation to keep looking up, to keep listening for the flickers, the pulses, the anomalies, to treat the unknown not as fear but as possibility. Atlas has reminded us that the universe is alive, restless, filled with wonders, still waiting to step into the light. In the years ahead, we will meet other visitors. Some will be ordinary, some extraordinary, perhaps even revolutionary. And when they come, we will be ready. Because Atlas taught us how to wait, how to wonder, how to let imagination and science walk hand in hand. And so, as the story closes, the invitation remains open. Step outside, look up, and remember, you are part of a species that stares into the dark and asks questions. Atlas has come and gone, but the questions it raised are still here, waiting for you to carry them forward. Perhaps that is the truest meaning of this green wanderer. Not a warning, not an omen, not even a puzzle, but a spark. A spark that lights the imagination, that keeps curiosity alive, that reminds us the universe is vast and we are only at the beginning of understanding it. Atlas drifts away, but the story it awakened has only just begun.